Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is the Sun Dragon Slayer in fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. And check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth and evil for evil. Unknown location, Iraq 771, village, destruction. As far as his eyes could see, that's all he could see, although he could barely see to begin with. Wait, where was he? And why was he here? Why was he on the floor? Weakened, he tried to move but he barely could. What was with this situation? I'm so confused, he muttered. Finally gathering what was left of his strength, he managed to stand up. He finally got a good look at his surroundings. The situation was way worse than he originally thought. Death. It was all around him, everywhere he turned, dead bodies, blood in abundance. What the hell was with this situation? Everywhere he looked there was this blue fire-like substance consuming land and life. Fear. He heard the cries of children. They seemed to be younger than him, to be orphaned at such a young age. Was this his fate as well? Maybe, he thought to himself. Take all surviving children. How lucky are we? Someone did all the dirty work for us. These were the sort of things that he could hear. Suddenly he saw different men cloaked in black clothing taking the children, clearly against their will. Alert. That's what his mind was at this moment. In time he gathered his remaining strength and decided he needed to run. Where? That was not his concern. All he knew was that he needed to get out of here or risk his freedom. Hey you. Desperation. With all the power he could muster, he began to run, forgetting whatever pain his body tried to remind him he was feeling. Caught. It had all been for nothing. The man had caught up and had grabbed him. Effort. He put all he had into it and tried to escape the grip. He struggled and tussled. Meaningless. All his effort was for naught. Right now he was being taught a very important life lesson. Unfair. What was with this situation? Pain. It seemed like his body wanted to remind him once again that he was in pain. And like all little children, he was going to remember the discomfort he was feeling and relate it to this man for the rest of his life. As the man's grip on him tightened, he felt something inside him begin to rise. Anger. Who on earth did this man think he was? Why was he taking him somewhere he clearly didn't want to go? Confusion. Was he part of the people who were behind what happened here? Frustration. Why didn't he remember? What's going on? Rage. It's his fault. It's all his fault. No, don't try to make this situation a rational one. 2. Instinct. His senses had been acting purely on this right now. As he freed himself from this man's grip and launched his fist at the man's stomach, the man doubled over in pain. He then grabbed the man clad in black and proceeded to inflict pain on said man. Punch, 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 he continued, blow after blow after blow. He wasn't letting up. All the emotion he was feeling, he wanted to unleash it upon this man a thousandfold. He too was surprised from just how raw his unrestrained emotion could be. Until the man was gone, and with him the surge of emotion that came with his arrival was gone. Remorse. TCH. Perhaps if the man wasn't clearly the antagonist in this situation, he might have considered it. Heartless. Could he be considered such? Power. Was this what he was feeling now? Over here. A voice brought him out of his thoughts. He saw more and more of these men coming towards him. Even with their faces cloaked, they could not hide their shock. This child. One of them muttered. He will be a great sacrifice in bringing back Zeref-sama. Zeref? Why did this name ring a bell? Who is Zeref? The boy asked. Quickly, let's knock him out, he heard. Restrain him. Confine him. Chain him. Confinement. That didn't sit well with him, not one bit. Release me, he screamed. Suddenly he felt the rage build up in him. At him they continued. Red. All he could see was red. Consumed with an ungodly rage. They fell. They all fell, all the cloaked men dead. Red. Then, it was black. All black. He was in the same position he was in when he last woke up. This had to be the quickest case of déjà vu ever. He tried to open his eyes. He couldn't. It was too bright. Brighter than he'd ever seen. He looked up to see the most magnificent creature he'd ever laid his eyes on, a dragon in all of its glory. He had never seen a dragon before, but even he could tell that this guy was something special. He was different. He wasn't your average dragon. No sir, that much was for sure. Like the sun, he shone a brilliant golden color. Here was a gargantuan, mastodonic dragon. His entire upper body was covered in white, round scales, which in turn were decorated by spiraling gold and red markings, large, golden and feathery wings, which were decorated with white markings. He also possessed unique golden eyes and black sclera. Why must destruction follow you everywhere you go? The dragon said as he took in his surroundings. All this destruction, his old draconian heart couldn't take it. The golden dragon was broken out of his thoughts, noticing a small humanoid form on the ground. This boy, no older than 5 years old, bathed in blood. What was worse was the fact that the blood didn't belong to him. His tiny body seemed scarred from a recent scrimmage, but then he noticed something interesting about this boy. His left arm was unlike the rest of his body, extending from his hand way past his wrist, stopping midway from his elbow. His arm was black with spiraling blue marks. Immediately upon seeing this hand he knew what it meant. Impossible, he thought to himself. He'd only ever seen those markings on one other being, someone dark whose name was hardly ever spoken. It seems fate has a cruel and amusing way of playing us against each other, isn't that right, brother? The dragon then looked at the boy's arm again. He sighed. Looks like I'm going to have to take responsibility for my brother's mess. Against that arm in there lies too much power to go unchecked. Well, there goes the last few years of my 100-year rest. He looked at the boy once again, the boy who, to the dragon's own surprise, didn't seem fazed at seeing a dragon. Boy, the dragon spoke in a majestic tone. Why are you here? Do you know what happened? The boy quickly rose to his feet. He never expected the dragon to speak. This was beyond the comprehension of a child. This seemed to amuse the dragon. Oh, this is quite amusing. You held no surprise at seeing a creature as majestic, ancient and noble as myself, yet you are scared that I am capable of speech. That is funny to say the least. I don't know, the boy sobbed. All this destruction, don't know these dead cloaked men. It was me, I killed them. He paused and wiped his tears. My mind, I feel like it's empty, it's missing things, and I'm scared. It scares me. Me name is Naruto. I know this much. I'm 5 years old, I think, but who the hell am I? He burst into tears once again. The dragon looked down at Naruto and he sensed great sadness and confusion mixed with all sorts of negative emotion coming from the boy. It brought pain to the old dragon that he could not help ease the pain of one so young. No, he would make it his mission to help this boy and to ease his troubled mind, for one so young shouldn't have to go through something so cruel. Boy Naruto, he started. I know not of your past, but I know that you are special. This piqued Naruto's interest. That left arm of yours is something unique belonging to someone very close to me, my brother. In fact, he finished. Your brother? Young Naruto was now wiping his tears due to this new development, this left arm that he hadn't even thought much about. Of course he wondered why it was different from the rest of his body, but with his brain being in the state that it was in, he couldn't really think too deeply into it. Naruto, I may not know of your past, but if you choose to come with me, we can carve an interesting future together. You have no father, no mother. Come under my wing. Let me teach you. Let me become your father. My father? Now this was truly a surprise for our young protagonist. Never would he have expected this dragon to offer to become his parent. Was this even possible? How would such a thing occur? What would bear fruit? I will teach you everything I know, all my knowledge, 400 plus years of it I will bestow upon you for the time we shall be together, not to mention magic. If you are successful in learning the things I wish to teach you, there's no telling what you would be capable of. The dragon was proud of himself. He felt that he had brought his case forward quite well, and he was offering this boy a sweet deal he could never hope to reject. How about your name? Oh, you amuse me, young one. You possess spunk. I like that. I feel like we have some great times ahead of us. I am known as Hyperion, the sun dragon of yang and light. He finished and an aura of heavenly fire surrounded him. Hyperion, huh? Father, he said silently. Son, Iraq 777. It was the beginning of the year that would mark the end of Naruto and Hyperion's journey together. The years had passed. The training for Naruto was intense, but worth it. He not only learned of Dragon Slayer magic, but of all the knowledge the old dragon had gathered over the years. He learned of the power in his left arm, and although he was unaware of its origin, he had become quite adept with it. Although, finding out the truth behind his mysterious left hand was a goal he had set for the not-so-distant future. Although in the physical world Naruto and Hyperion had been training for 6 years, in actuality they had amassed 20 years of training. This was due to Hyperion's spiritual enlightenment and knowledge of space-time magic. They were able to put 20 years of training into the time they had been together. Naruto could very well be described as the epitome of a dragon slayer. He had learned his son Yang Dragon Slayer magic to an amazing extent, but it didn't stop there. Naruto had also mastered the power of the Black Dragon that slept in his left arm. Black Dragon Slayer magic. Granted, he wasn't being taught by the Black Dragon Aknologia himself, but learning from said dragon's brother wasn't bad either. He had learned how to channel this power through his entire was even more to this left hand, but it was all shrouded in mystery. Hyperion had told Naruto that he had become something more than just a regular dragon slayer, and it was his responsibility to hold the tradition of the sun and black dragons. Along with his slayer magic, Naruto had also learned to apply runes to battle, as well as its older, more powerful incarnation, in the form of seals. He also acquired an old and forgotten yet very useful magic in the form of clone magic. He soon began to develop his own magic in the form of storm magic, a magic that combined wind, water and lightning magic to perform devastating attacks. He was well on his way to developing his own space-time magic as well. Things had gone perfectly until the year 776, for this was the year that Hyperion had chosen to bathe Naruto in his sun flames. To further increase his power, he went a step further by taking his own lacrima and placing it in Naruto. This was in hopes that Naruto would rely more on his sun dragon slayer magic, hardly ever having to use Aknologia's powers. Naruto gained a massive boost in power. However, in doing this, his sun dragon lacrima and his black dragon lacrima reacted, unleashing a long lost and forgotten power. Hyperion told Naruto he was a dual-wielding dragon Dragon Slayer, something unique unlike the first generation Dragon Slayers, who are simply trained by dragons, or the second generation, who possess the lacrima of a dragon, or the third generation, who carry out both characteristics of the first and second. Dual-wielding Dragon Slayers have the ability to simultaneously wield two dragon abilities. Due to both lacrima and dragon teaching, there have never been many of this sort of Dragon Slayer, so Hyperion sensed that soon Naruto's powers would become instrumental. Unknown location. August 1st x 777. Mountaintop. A figure stood on the mountaintop, a young boy clad in black and white clothing. He had unruly blonde hair, with jaw-length bangs framing each side of his face. Sharp blue eyes, they were cold and icy, like they would pierce into your very soul. He also had 3 whisker marks on each cheek. He looked at the sun and inhaled. "Thank you, father," he whispered. "With all you've given me, I can finally find myself." In a flash of yellow, he was gone. Unknown location. X 777. Icy wasteland. A young black-haired boy lay on his knees. He had blue-black spiky hair. He wore a black t-shirt and gray pants, and right now he was in tears. In front of him lay a blue dragon on the verge of death. "Why, father, why make me do this?" The boy half asked, half screamed. With its dying breath, it decided to utter a few words. "It's okay," he reassured him. "This was necessary for your growth. I was already dying, and what better way for me to go than for my son to end me. I'm happy and proud you've grown from the little child you were. You are a man now, and a strong one at that. At your young age you are a dual-wielding Dragon Slayer. You're so strong, and the power in your left hand is amazing. Couldn't be more proud, Sasuke." And with that the dragon passed. The young man wiped his tears. "Thank you, father, Kirin. I will make you proud, and I promise to live out all my days as that which you have made me strong. I swear by the oath of the dragon I will be the strongest." His eyes glowed a sharp and menacing red. Chapter 2. Power of the Sun. Flashback. "Tell me, my son, what do you know of the sun?" Hyperion asked his young son. "It's a big ball of fire," Naruto half asked, half replied. "Ho ho ho. Typical human, I wouldn't expect you to know about the greatness of the sun," he told Naruto. "Now's as good a time as ever to educate me, isn't it, father? I mean, I am on my way to becoming the Sun Dragon Slayer after all," the young blonde finished. "You make a great point, my child. I will teach you about the sun and my magic." The young Naruto's face was now full of excitement. He had been traveling with Hyperion for 3 months now. So far all he had learned was history, math, science, improving his vocabulary, and some other things Hyperion felt Naruto could learn now. He was finally getting down to the real business: Dragon Slayer magic. "Alright. Let's begin, father," the young blonde declared. "Alright, now we start by knowing our element, the sun. You might not know this, but the sun is a star." "A star?" "Yes, it is, my boy. In fact, it is the closest star to the earth. It's a ball of plasma. Some like to call it a ball of cosmic fire," the legendary dragon replied. "That's amazing, father. You're amazing," was the response of the excited young blonde. "Now listen carefully, my son. As my pupil and child, you too can wield the power of the cosmic flames. This devastating heat, no flame on the planet should be able to cause you any harm," said the sun dragon. "Amazing. Just imagine what I could do with these powers. It'll be unstoppable. The most powerful mage in the world, able to crush my enemies under my feet," Naruto finished with a sort of diabolical aura. Now my son, while I admit that you will be a formidable foe to all who come near you, your power is all but invincible, especially if you haven't mastered them." The wise dragon's words seemed to break Naruto out of his mentality. "Listen very carefully, my son. The expert with a stone is better than an amateur with a sword. You might wield a godly flame, but if you limit yourself, one who wields an ordinary flame might be able to best you," the dragon of Yang warned. "Yes, father," the whiskered youth pouted. "Now, like all dragon slayers, you will be able to eat your element to increase your magical abilities and provide yourself with a boost of energy." "But father, how do I eat the sun?" Naruto questioned. "That's easy, my boy. Look all around you. What do you see?" the dragon asked. "Trees, plants, land," Naruto answered in a doubtful tone. "Exactly, my boy. All around, the sun's influence knows no bounds. It's everywhere and everything. As my child, you are able to absorb even nature itself. If you wish, you may also eat things like lightning and fire, things that contain plasma. The world is your oyster, my child," Hyperion stated in quite the proud tone. "Father, you really are incredible," said the young proud boy. "You should know that as my child, you are not just capable of destruction." Naruto: "What do you mean, father?" the young blonde asked. "The sun isn't just known for its destructive powers, the sun is also known for and always associated with healing." "Healing, huh? So does this mean cuts and scratches?" "Ha ha ha. Do you really think that is all it'd be capable of? Lost and or broken limbs, large gaping cuts, muscular damage and even fatigue, even the little things like stomachaches. My magic is capable of healing all," the dragon finished. "Dad, you're not an ordinary dragon, are you?" the blonde questioned his father. "You're very perceptive, my son," the dragon answered. "So what are you, father?" "I am." Flashback end. Somewhere in Fiori. November 4th x 777. Unknown forest. A young blonde sat atop of what appeared to be the carcass of a wyvern. The wyvern was bloodied and broken, missing a horn with several cuts and burns all over its body, wings broken, battered and torn. It was safe to say that this wyvern was dead, not just dead however, but brutalized. However, the blonde wasn't in much better shape either. He had several deep cuts all over his body, his blonde hair was stained with blood and dirt, his clothes were tattered, however his left arm, which was covered in white bandages, seemed fine. It was kind of odd how the arm with the bandages managed to stay so clean and seemed in good condition. Even the bandage which was wrapped around it seemed clean somehow. Well, you know how to keep yourself busy. I see if it's not dark guilds, it's wyverns, a gruff voice said. Our blonde hero turned around to see a red cat approaching him. This red cat seemed to be a cat with a humanoid physique and a fox-like face, sharp whiskers and canines with red slit eyes and slightly blackened lips. He was also wearing a sleeveless button-up vest, which was left open. "Oh Kurama, you're back," the young blonde replied, jumping off the dead wyvern. Kurama was an exceed that Naruto had met upon his dragon parents' departure. The two at first were not very fond of each other, but over the past few weeks they had grown considerably closer. "Yes, I, the great Kurama, have returned," the feline said. "So did you find anything?" Naruto replied, completely ignoring the Exceed's claims of being great. "As a matter of fact, I did. There's a small town not too far from here. We should be able to get some grub there. There's also a lot of inns in the area. Maybe we could finally take a break." "No." Naruto cut Kurama off before he could continue. "We don't have time for that, Kurama," Naruto stated. "We need to move as fast as possible. Staying in one place for too long is a no-no for us." "Honestly, Naruto, there's nothing wrong with a break. We need to recharge, or you run the risk of dying of magic exhaustion. Besides, it's not like we are wanted criminals or anything," the red feline warned. "Besides, do you intend to walk around like that?" The young blonde got a good look at himself, then he realized that not only was he covered in blood, but his clothes were ripped and tattered. Kurama was right, he definitely could not go around like this. "Okay, I suppose we could." Crash. Our young protagonist was cut short by what sounded like an explosion deep in the forest. He turned in the direction of the noise and noticed smoke coming from an area nearby. "Do you think it's worth checking out?" Naruto asked his feline friend. "Honestly, anything is better than watching you dissect a wyvern," Kurama replied truthfully. "Very well, shall we?" And with that, Naruto and Kurama sped off towards the direction of the ruckus. Upon arrival, Naruto and Kurama saw a young girl in damaged clothing, fighting off what seemed to be 3 lizardmen simultaneously. The girl herself seemed to be around the same age as Naruto, or perhaps just a tad bit younger. Her appearance was quite unique. She seemed to be of average height, distinguished by her Eastern look. Her long, straight and glossy black hair, reaching down to her lower back, well, mostly left loose, being parted in the middle of her forehead and sporting 2 bangs framing her face and going down below her shoulders. Her hair was also tied into a pair of bun-shaped loops at both sides of her head, and a braid was present some inches below each of such loops. Her facial makeup was reminiscent of that worn by a Japanese geisha, with her lips being covered in glossy dark lipstick and her slanted dark eyes, possessing long eyelashes, being topped by a pair of elongated diagonal dark spots, seemingly acting as her covering her eyebrows. The young female seemed to be handling herself quite well in the fight, but at the same time she looked like she couldn't handle fighting anymore. She was sweating and panting and looked incredibly tired. Our heroes watched from a distance as the young girl took on the lizard men onslaught. "Should we jump in?" Kurama asked his partner. "Not yet, let's just see how things play out," Naruto replied. At that very moment, the geisha-looking girl began to chant something. "Neil wield Myon Tersil Cantius. Yagdo Rigora," she roared. While waving her hands in a circular motion, a large statue with intricate designs and patterns over its body was conjured, creating a powerful blast, followed by a pillar of light which destroyed the surrounding area. "Impressive," Kurama stated. "Indeed," was Naruto's simple reply. When the dust cleared, the young girl seemed completely and utterly drained, and 2 of the lizard men fell to the ground, however one was still standing. "Damn it." The girl cursed under her breath. "That was my strongest attack. How on earth are you still standing?" she questioned. The lizard man completely ignored her and started charging. "Am I going to die?" she thought to herself as her life began to flash before her eyes. If only she'd been stronger, she wouldn't have to deal with situations like this. She cursed herself for her weakness. She closed her eyes, preparing for the inevitable, when she heard a voice. "Storm magic hell stab Arashi no Meiho Jigakizuki." The girl opened her eyes to witness the last lizard man on the floor, with black smoke being released from its body. It looked like it had just been zapped, to her understanding. "Are you alright?" The sharp-eyed female turned and looked at the person who the voice belonged to. She was surprised to see that he was a boy that looked about her age or only slightly older. This left her in a state of total shock. She couldn't believe it. She just stood there staring. "You alright, miss?" Naruto asked. The young girl snapped out of the state of mind that she was currently in and regained her composure in an instant. I was in a real bind there, thank you for coming to my aid, she said courteously. No need for the formalities, miss. Minerva Orlando, she replied. Minerva extended her hand and Naruto took it, shaking her. That's quite the exotic name you have. My name is Naruto. Minerva let go of his hand and once again bowed at him in thanks. I'm very grateful for your help, Naruto Dono. Naruto's sweat dropped. I just told her to drop the honorifics, he thought to himself. Well, quite the well-mannered girl, I must say. It was now Kurama's turn to speak up. After observing Minerva, he had decided that she was actually worth the time of day, a female who appeared to be quite strong with a strong sense of respect and etiquette. It's not every day you run into a good woman like this, she ticks all the boxes now. I just have to find out if she's a good cook and I'll have the kid marry her in a heartbeat. The devious cat Kitsune hybrid thought to himself. Talking cat, she yelled. Kurama's sweat dropped. Well, there goes the composure. Young lady, it's not polite to yell such things, Kurama chastised. Minerva bowed apologetically. Naruto rolled his eyes and sighed. Ignore Kurama, Minerva-chan, he's a rather mischievous individual said. Mischievous me, Kurama asked sarcastically. For as long as Minerva could remember, she had been taught to always respect her superiors, that included elders and people who she saw as more powerful than her. Her father taught her that respect was earned, and only the powerful could earn respect, be it physical strength, political strength or financial strength. After easily taking down the lizard man that could have taken her life or fatally injured her, Naruto had joined that bracket of people that must be respected. Minerva would show her utmost respect and act accordingly with the utmost composure and respect her, at least. That's how it was supposed to be. But watching the powerful blonde argue with his whimsical red feline, the young girl's composure fell out the window and she clutched her stomach as she began to laugh at the ridiculousness of the and Kurama paused their bickering and took a good look at Minerva, who was still laughing. You think she's lost it? Kurama asked. Naruto ignored him and took a good look at Minerva, noticing the many injuries that she had picked up no doubt from her fight with the lizard men. He moved closer to the female, causing her to become flustered. Is there a problem, Naruto Dono? She questioned. Oh, you lady killer, Kurama teased. Sorry if I startled you, Minerva-chan. Naruto apologized. It's just that your body is ravaged with injuries, do you mind? Naruto extended his right arm towards her. What exactly are you going to do, Naruto Dono? She asked. Give me a second, Minerva-chan, Naruto said. Naruto placed his right hand on top of Minerva's head. Sun Dragon's mystic palm tire you no Shimsen, Naruto whispered. Suddenly Minerva was covered in a golden glow. All her injuries began to cover up and she felt the fatigue lift and she felt a whole lot better in general. It was hard to explain, it felt like she'd been touched by a divine being. Alright there, Naruto took his hand of Minerva's head and proceeded to whisper something again that Minerva couldn't quite catch. He then began to glow gold, just like Minerva had moments earlier, and just like her his injuries were healed. However, the same couldn't be said for his clothes, however, and Naruto noticed this. Naruto Dono, what was that? Minerva questioned. Now Minerva-chan, I can't go spilling all my secrets now, can I? Naruto winked, causing Minerva to blush. This boy was truly an enigma to Minerva. He seemed compassed and carried himself like royalty. This was the type of person that she was used to dealing with. However, he seemed to have a mischievous side. This Minerva was not used to. She had only met him for a few minutes and he'd already made her feel a whole array of emotions. If I should try and get him to join Father's Guild. He's so powerful, he'd be a great addition, Minerva thought to herself. Say, Minerva-chan. Naruto started to speak, breaking Minerva out of her thoughts. Hi, Naruto Dono. The black-haired female replied to our young hero. Naruto's side. It was almost like the girl didn't realize how uncomfortable she was making him feel by referring to him in such a formal tone. Please, can you not be so formal with me? He pleaded. It's quite embarrassing, pointed out. If you must add an honorific to my name, let's try something a little less formal. Yes. Minerva paused for a few seconds before she began to speak. Hi, she finished with a blush staining her pale cheeks. Now that we have got that out of the way, you wouldn't happen to know a good tailor, would you? Naruto asked. Why would we require a tailor, Naruto-kun? She asked. Well, we can't walk around looking like this now, can we? He pointed to both their clothing, which were ripped at several places. Minerva seemed to have only just now noticed a huge blush covered her entire face in embarrassment. She grabbed Naruto's hand and they made their way towards the town. And well, that's it for this chapter 1. Intended to make it longer, but I decided that it would be best if I stopped here. I hope you all enjoyed the chapter, and I hope that I was able to explain Naruto's Sun Dragon abilities to all of your understanding. I'll be referring to it as Sun Dragon for now because no one told me whether they wanted it to be called Sun Dragon, Yang Dragon or Solar Dragon, so until then it will be Sun Dragon. Please try and give me your thoughts on the matter. As you can see, Kurama is an exceed in this story. I thought it'd be fun to tackle Kurama's personality. About Minerva's appearance in this chapter, well, I felt it would be interesting to meet Minerva this early on, before she is completely power obsessed. You might think that she is ook, but that's not the case due to the fact that this is in her younger years. So what do you guys think? Do you like Minerva? Would you like her to be the girl for the pairing? I plan to take romance very seriously in this manga. The 4 top females that will be contending for Naruto's feelings will be Kagura, Minerva, Miragen, Ultear, Anna and Urza will also have a role to play in it. If you have any other females in mind, please let me know. First of all, concerning Naruto and Hyperion's magic, Sun Dragon Slayer magic isn't just a superior fire magic, it's like a celestial holy fire, like a mix of holy fire and light lightning magic. Let's say it's like heavenly body magic, just to a fire greater level, it's solar energy, so don't be surprised if I describe his ability as light lightning or a flame. Another thing is Naruto's personality. It's not all rainbows and sunshine like it may have appeared in the last chapter, he's got a darker side. Not having any memories of the first couple years of your life will do that to you, he's kinda like how Kakashi is. More of Hyperion's past will be explained in this chapter as well. Now some people also showed concern about Sasuke yet again, this time it was better. They asked about Sasuke's dual wield and asked me if it would be the same as Naruto. I'll start by saying Sasuke's left hand won't have the same power as Naruto's, neither will he possess the power Hyperion's ability at all. I will be dropping hints as to what it is. If you guess right, I'll give you something special, maybe take you on a date or something if you're a girl. That is, the dragon deity, the dragon god. There is a history to dragonkind, starting with the first 3 dragons, those who are said to have governed over all dragons from ancient times until now. The also known as Asgarath, the dragon of balance, the world dragon of life, what some like to call the one true dragon. He is known for being neutral in all things that he does, like a true dragon, as they are expected to be neutral in all cases. Then there is Shinju, also known as Chronepsis, the dragon of fate, the void dragon of null, ever the distant dragon. He does not bother himself with the affairs of dragons, much less that of humans. Then we have the Crimson Dragon, known only as the Crimson Dragon, a powerful dragon quite different from his brothers. He wasn't neutral, he always looked for when to help, and he was always willing to and wanted to help. Those 3 were known as the Upper Deity Dragon. From the scales of Eo 3 other dragons were born, the first being Vorel, a real neutral dragon just like his father. Vorel was known as the One Dragon and the Celestial Dragon, a late bloomer in terms of knowledge, but when he did come of age, he was a force to be reckoned with. Now the other 2 dragons were a special case. The first was Bahamut, the current king of the dragons. He is known as the Platinum Dragon and the Lord of the North Winds. He had a sister who was born alongside him, Tiamat, the dragon of destruction, also known as the Dark Dragon Queen and the Chromatic Queen. She was always at odds with her brothers, while Vorel didn't care. Bahamut saw her as some sort of rival. The 2 of them were always at odds with each other, never siding with each other, except maybe on few occasions, when Bahamut became Dragon King. Tiamat grew furious and took a large sect of dragons. With her, that is when she claimed the title of Dark Dragon Queen, and all who followed her were known as Dark Dragons. Ultimately, Bahamut and Tiamat could not be like their father or elder brother. They could not be neutral. Tiamat chose the path of evil to further her goals, and to stop his sister and combatter Bahamut choose the path of good, thus neither of could be a neutral dragon. The Crimson Dragon bore 6 dragons that aided him in his mission: protect people and the world. The Ancient Fairy Dragon, the Black Rose Dragon, the Black Winged Dragon, the Lifestream Dragon, the Ever-Evolving Stardust Dragon and Red Dragon Archfiend. From Vorel 3 dragons were born in a similar manner to Vorel. These 3 dragons with incredible power choose not to bother themselves in trivial issues, and they were neutral dragons. The dragons were the Alga, the Dragon of Time, Giratina, the Antimatter Dragon, Palkia, the Dragon of Space. They were known as the Creation Trio. Bahamut also bore 3 dragons while wielding great power. They did not share in their father's quest for good. On the other hand, these dragons cared for balance. Reshiram, the Blazing White Yang Dragon, Zekrom, the Electrifying Black Yin Dragon, Pyraman, the Freezing Grey Wuji Dragon. They were known as the Tao Trio. Unlike her brothers, Tiamat only bore 1 dragon of noteworthy power, and that was Yamato no Orochi, the 8-headed dragon of darkness, a being of pure darkness with not a single shred of light. This had been what Tiamat had intended to do, harness the power of darkness in a dragon. More dragons were born from Eo, known as the dragon gods. Not much unlike the upper dragon deities, they governed dragonkind, while the upper dragons took a more backseat role, so much so that younger dragons believed them to be a myth. The dragon gods: Eryx, the dragon fire god, ruler of the flames; Ryukami, the Storm thunder and lightning, dragon god, lord of the storms; Raijin, the water dragon god, emperor of the seas; Ilong, the earth dragon god, lord of the ground; Tornadus, the dragon wind god, king of the skies. These were dragons born from the great Eo, along with Bahamut, Tiamat and Vorel. However, these were not the only dragon gods. Shinju, as much as he did not like to interfere with matters, and as much as he liked to just watch, sometimes he decided to interfere. Through his power he created dragon gods. They were different, born purely of his power, and with a special gene. The Cosmic Emperor Dragons, the first being Hyperion, the solar sun dragon of yang and light, a dragon of great power and, like the other dragon gods, one that was not so restricted by laws that govern other normal dragons, with a power that was unrivaled by most. He was a force to reckon with, one that went beyond being a force of nature. The second being Acnologia, the Black Dragon, the dragon of apocalypse like his brother Hyperion. He also wielded unrivaled power and was a force of pure power and destruction, and coupled with his hatred and pity for everything, he saw himself as better than all dragons. He felt superior in every way, his power knew no bounds. In terms of raw power they rivaled Bahamut, Tiamat and Vorel. The power from their birth was so strong that 4 new dragons were born due to the leftover energy from Hyperion and Acnologia's birth. The Pep and Eos, the night dragons. Thoth and Selene, the lunar moon dragons. Although born directly from his power, these dragons were not considered children of Shinju, instead they were seen as servants of Hyperion and Acnologia. After the dragon gods there are the elemental dragon lords. While not as strong as the deities, they have been made certain lords of their region for their incredible abilities with their element. Igneel, the fire dragon, Metallicana, the steel dragon, Brandini, the sky dragon, Wazloja, the white dragon, Skiadrum, the shadow dragon, Leviathan, Scatha, Hydra, Rayquaza, 4 dragons of the sea, Cerator, the crystal dragon, Iorameru and Glacia, the ice dragons, Vulcanus, the lava dragon, Bravator, the gravity dragon, Broden, the earth dragon, Vayu, the wind dragon, Helios, child of Hyperion, the light dragon, and thus dragonkind was born. Fiori, Blackwater Town, November 4, X 777. Naruto and Minerva were no longer clothed in rags after purchasing clothes. Naruto's outfit consisted of black pants with a black belt, a black V-necked shirt that was worn underneath a black trench coat with gray lining going down the sleeves and black boots with silver plates to protect his shins, and a pair of black fingerless gloves with a sword strapped on his back. Just imagine a black version of Minato's cloak, or you could just imagine Kirito from Sword Art Online's clothing. Minerva's attire is yet again Eastern-looking, with a young girl wearing a strapless dress highly reminiscent of a cheongsam. This is shown to possess a large slit in correspondence to Minerva's left leg, exposing it all up to her thigh, and comes secured to her body by a number of dark laces on the back and to her right side, and by a line of metal fasteners, taking the shape of 2 horizontally placed triangles with their bases linked together on her front left side. Minerva's usual attire. The two had been wandering around for a had wondered why Minerva was all alone in the forest fighting lizardmen. Not that it was any of his business, but seeing as they were traveling together at this moment in time, he decided it was his responsibility to start a conversation. Minerva was having similar thoughts. She was curious as to why Naruto was alone in that forest, fighting wyverns, and his mysterious was that he used to kill the lizard man. What was with that golden glow and healing magic? Now she had gotten a good look at him. He had this feral, beast-like look, his azure eyes had slit pupils, he also possessed elongated canines, his golden hair seemed like a lion's mane, and he possessed these strange whisker-like birth, for some reason unknown, found that she liked this idea of a beastly gentleman. She giggled to herself, beastly gentleman, how on earth had she come up with that? Minerva-chan. Minerva was brought out of her laughter and thought process by the voice of the blonde. Is there a reason you're talking to yourself? Naruto asked. Damn, you sure know how to pick 'em, kid. Kurama laughed at his partner. Shut up was Naruto's swift reply to his foxy friend. By the way, Minerva, I've been wanting to ask you, why were you alone in the forest fighting lizard men? Naruto asked. Minerva suddenly had a sad look on her face. How was she to tell this boy that she just met that her own father had left her in the forest and told her not to come home until she was powerful enough to be called his daughter? Minerva felt a hand on her shoulder and looked and saw Naruto sending a sad smile her way. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, Naruto said, trying his best to comfort her. She appreciated the effort that he was putting into making her feel better. He had only met her a few hours ago, and he was treating her like she was a dear friend. She had never been treated this way before. It was new to her. She felt warm inside, and then heat rose to her face as she blushed. It's okay, Naruto-kun, I have no problem sharing. I was in the forest because my father told me not to come home until I was strong enough to be called his daughter. Minerva finished with tears threatening to fall out of her eyes. Don't you think your father would rather have you alive and weak than dead? Naruto asked her while she looked at him with a disbelieving look. Honestly, Naruto-kun, I don't know, my father has always been that way with me. He believes that strength governs the world and only the strong deserve to live in this world. Minerva finished remembering all the lessons that her father had taught her. Then he doesn't deserve you? Naruto said with anger evident on his face. If it were me, I would treasure you, he finished. Naruto-kun, what exactly are you implying? Do you treasure me? Minerva asked shyly, fidgeting with her fingers. Naruto blushed, having realized what he was implying. Smooth boy, you're a real charmer. Kurama laughed at the predicament that the two preteens had found themselves in until he fell of Naruto's shoulder. The two of them were now blushing furiously. Not only had they both embarrassed themselves, but they had also been embarrassed by a cat. That was disgraceful, whichever way you look at it. Naruto was having conflicting emotions. He didn't like the way he was feeling at the moment, not one bit. This was so unlike him. He wasn't meant to feel this way. These feelings building up inside him were new. Why did he suddenly feel angry at the way Minerva's father treated her? Why did he feel like he wanted to smash the man's face in? Suddenly a brilliant idea came to mind. Minerva the blonde said assertively, catching the blushing geisha off guard. Are you going to propose, partner? Kurama laughed at his blonde partner. He still hadn't recovered from what had just happened. Shut up, Kurama, Naruto yelled, leaking some killer intent at his fox-cat hybrid friend. Whoa, easy tiger, save some of that energy for wahaha. Kurama was on a laughter high, and killing intent or not, he wasn't going to come down from the cloud he was on. I swear you are going to be the death of me. He eyed his foxy friend, not Minerva. Minerva, let's go on a mission together. We can prove to your father that you are not at all weak, the blonde suggested. Minerva had never expected Naruto to ask her such a thing. He was such a good person, whether he wanted to be one or not. Now, she could actually get a good look at his magic. If he wasn't the secretive type who would only use physical attacks, maybe she could even convince him to join her father's guild. We've got to put in work though. It has to be an A rank mission. We can go to the circuit to collect a job for independent mages. The circuit are offices that attend to independent mages and give them jobs. It was developed as a way to keep independent mages tamed. Finally, a fight. I've been waiting for a good fight for ages. I accept your offer, Naruto-kun, Minerva said. She was ready to prove herself not only to her father, but to Naruto as well. Time, skip equals. So what's the problem, Mayor? Naruto asked. They had arrived at the town of the request that they had picked. It was a job request from the mayor of this very town, asking any A-class mages in the vicinity for help. Naruto wondered why no one had answered the request, seeing as it was relatively close by. I have to admit, I never expected mages so young to answer the request. The mayor admitted he was hoping for mages a bit more impressive, physically speaking, someone like Jura of Lamia Scalar Gilderts of Fairy Tail, not these children that appeared before him. Naruto could see the doubt on the man's face, but he just waved it off and said, I assure you there is no need to worry about us. My friend and I are more than capable. Naruto said, and he patted Minerva's head, making the girl pout at him. Well, Kurama just rolled his eyes. He didn't mind this Minerva girl actually. Just before they came on this mission she had offered to cook meals for both Naruto and himself. Needless to say that Kurama was impressed. He now considered Minerva highly on his potential mates for Naruto list. Well, the mission request is that you capture a huge group of bandits. They've been causing nothing but trouble for our town for at least 3 weeks. Now they even had the gall to kidnap some of our younger citizens, the mayor said with sad look in his eyes. Naruto was seething with anger upon hearing this, remembering the very first memory he could recall of his life, the destroyed villages, the men that tried to kidnap him, the men he ended up killing. You needn't worry, Mayor, my partner, and I vow that we will bring back your people and apprehend these bandits, Minerva said with determination that caught even Naruto off guard. He was aware that Minerva was nowhere near weak or weak-willed, but her father had just been pretty hard on her, and she was still recovering from it. He was proud of her for efforts. Ugh. Where on earth are these blasted bandits? Kurama whined. Naruto could sympathize with Kurama. He himself was bored, but he had been trained by Hyperion to mask his emotions. However, Minerva still seemed to be able to get certain reactions from him. I'll admit that if there is a faster way to get this done I wouldn't mind the option, Minerva said, and then an idea came to Naruto's mind. He was actually mentally kicking himself for not thinking of this earlier. Clone magic, Naruto shouted, and 10 Narutos appeared before them. Minerva was wide-eyed after seeing this. This was clone magic, an ancient lost magic that most people had never heard of, but she had, in her quest for power along with her father, she had studied all types of magic, as long as they could get their hands on it. Everyone spread out, find the bandits' hideout and relay information back to me, understand? Naruto said. Yes, sir. The clones shouted and spread out. What? Naruto asked, and Minerva was quickly snapped out of her shock. You really are a man of many talents, aren't you, Naruto-kun? Minerva said, maintaining her cool now that she had got herself together. I try, he replied with a foxy grin that caused Minerva to blush. You are really laying it on thick today, buddy, Kurama added with his own foxy grin. I hate you, Naruto stated simply, closing his eyes as he tried to establish a connection with his clones. I love you too, brother, Kurama replied. Minerva could only laugh at the antics of Naruto and his seemingly best friend. Actually, now that she thought about it, were dogs not meant to be the best friend of man? So what was Kurama? Was he a feline or a canine? Well, he looked like a cat. He also greatly resembled a fox. What on earth was he? More importantly, why the devil was she asking herself all these questions? Suddenly Naruto's eyes opened and Minerva was broken out of her train of thought. One of my clones has located the hideout. It's less than 5 minutes away from our position, Naruto said, and the trio headed towards the bandits' hideout. Finally, time to bust some heads, Kurama commented. Naruto picked up Minerva bridal style as he and Kurama were much faster than she was, and it would be easier for them all if they traveled this way. Minerva was greatly embarrassed by the predicament, but if it was for the good of the mission and possibly saving some people, she was willing to cast her embarrassment aside. The group arrived at the hideout in no time, and they were taken back by the rather unimpressive area that they had found themselves in. It was a cave that seemed to be blocked by a boulder. Well, it wouldn't be the first place that anybody would want to look. It wouldn't take a diligent investigator or mage too long to figure out the location of the hideout. So what course of action shall we take? Minerva asked, causing Kurama and Naruto to look at each other with maniacal grins on their faces. Minerva saw the glint in their eyes and knew what they were thinking. You don't intend to just barge in here, do you? We have no idea what lies ahead. She questioned the two, were they so powerful that they did not take things like this into consideration. Inside the cave. On the inside of the cave there were several bandits, who were all dressed in a similar manner and bore similar looks facially. This was done in an attempt to protect their identities, so that the authorities would never be able to single them out. Right now these bandits seemed to be having the time of their lives, jubilating, drinking to their heart's desire, telling stories to each other, and just being merry in general today. They had finished what they came to this town, for it wouldn't be too long before they would leave and move on to another small town to terrorize. None of the members could possibly be happier. They loved it when an operation was a success. At this particular moment in time, the leader of this group, around an ugly man named Gato, was giving a speech to his workers and fellow bandits. It's been a haluva ride, boys. He finished receiving cheers from all corners of the cave. What happened next had left him not only utterly terrified, but in a state of complete panic. A wave of white and golden energy crashed straight through the boulder. In the midst of the white and golden flame-like substance stood three figures, one girl boy and a cat on his shoulders. Wahahaha, flee you foolish mortals, flee lest I turn you all into fur coats, Kurama yelled at the awestruck bandits. Upon a closer observation of those who had attacked them, the bandits burst into laughter. The ridiculousness of their fear, thinking that a high-class mage had come to subdue them. This was their first mistake, underestimating their opponents. Are you kidding me? One of the men yelled. Two kids and a cat, just our luck, wouldn't you say? Another bandit added. Boss, are you seeing this? We got ourselves here a couple of send-off gifts, someone else added. Now to the normal untrained eye, our heroes looked normal and unaffected by the words of these lowlifes, but upon closer observation, one could see the killer intent in their eyes at being underestimated and laughed at, for that was the second mistake of the bandits, taunting their opponents. Naruto-kun, I do believe that we are being underestimated, Minerva stated. Her hands began to glow white as she readied her magic for battle. That does seem to be the case, Minerva-chan, Naruto stated coolly. I say we hit him hard and fast. I'm hungry, Kurama added. Beto began to descend down the stairs with a demeanor and composure that he lost after witnessing his entrance's destruction. Well started. The couple of kids trying to play magic continued. He closed his eyes and began to walk towards them. Suddenly Gato was choking due to reasons unknown to him. Then his body began to float, which greatly confused him. It was not until he blinked that Gato saw Naruto holding him by the throat and lifting him off the ground. Gato was no fool. No ordinary child should have the speed to do what he just did to another human being before their mind can even register what happened. Gato then proceeded to do what Gato did best: wiggle your way out of a tough situation. Mercy, he pleaded. Naruto shot Gato a questioning look, twisting his head to the side before completely shattering the round bandit's neck. Mercy, Naruto questioned. What that? He asked innocently, like a deranged killer. They killed the boss. A bandit screamed at the top of his lungs, breaking all his colleges out of their chalk. Bet them? Another shouted. They all began to charge at our heroes in a blind rage. Let's get wild, Kurama roared. Naruto and Minerva nodded. Rising flame. Kurama roared as flames erupted from his mouth and proceeded to burn some of the bandits. Those who were not on the receiving end stood in awe for a minute as they tried to register what had just happened. Too bad for them that Minerva didn't care whether or not their brains could comprehend the situation. She began to use her territory magic to manipulate the space in the room, trapping the bandits in her own personal space while sapping their magical energy. Naruto had moved to another section of the cave where a large majority of the bandits were. There's no way you can take all of us, boy, a bandit yelled, trying to assure himself he wouldn't suffer from an early demise. Just how many of us do you think you can kill? Another one of them questioned. Be grateful, Naruto spoke in a tone that instantly brought fear to these men. I'm about to bring the divine judgment of the sun upon you, he stated as his body assumed a golden white glow. Fairy no, sun dragons. Naruto inhaled deeply, taking in and storing as much magical energy as he could hold. The bandit, seeing this as an opportunity to attack, decided to rush him while he charged. In hindsight, this might not have been such a good idea. Hoko. Roar. A stream of white, blue and gold energy was released from Naruto's mouth and encompassed the entire area around the bandits. When the light died down, all the bandits that dared attack Naruto were no more. After seeing this, the other bandits struggling to fight gave up all hope after witnessing most of their comrades wiped out with a single attack. Suddenly one of them began to speak out. That breath attack, I've seen it before. I know what you are a dragon slayer, he finished with the fear evident in his voice. Kurama snorted. Took you long enough. The dragon slayer, Minerva whispered to herself. The magic of all that was said to have granted humans the ability of dragons and the ability to slay dragons. This was the first time she was seeing it up close. Good work Minerva, now let's round up the surviving bandits and report to the mayor. Naruto said. Naruto-kun. Minerva said, suddenly shocking both the blonde and Kurama. What did she have on her mind? Join my guild. She finished. Yep, she had intended to catch them by surprise. That certainly did the trick. What? Naruto questioned, looking at her in total disbelief. Where was this coming from? I know this sounds selfish of me, beauty, need you. She finished, blushing up a storm. Oh. Even Kurama, who had become prone to making jokes in instances like this, fell of Naruto's shoulder at the sheer boldness of this girl. Hell, even the bandits were surprised as they began to whisper to each other. Sorry Minerva, I don't think I'm ready to join a guild. The blonde stated as he could see the sadness evident in her eyes. When he said this, certain bandits were now crying due to the heavy emotion in the room. He walked over to her and placed his hand on her head and said to her, we need to show your dad that you're strong. I'm afraid having me along would do just the opposite, he said before proceeding to hug her. This caught Minerva by surprise, but she eased into it. When he let her go, she was spotting a blush more serious than anyone she'd ever had before. The two then proceeded to round up the bandits and go back to the town to collect the reward. Time, skip equals. Upon completion of the mission and collecting the reward, Naruto decided that it was time that he left the town and continue on his journey. Hearing this, Minerva immediately fell into a state of depression. It had only been a few days, but Naruto had changed her. He had given her happier days than she had had in a long time and reminded her what it means to be a kid again. She wasn't going to just let him leave without a proper goodbye. Promise me we will meet again. She wore a determined look on her face. I can't really make promises like that, Minerva-chan, but I'll try my hardest, Naruto replied to the girl, not wanting to lie to her or get her hopes up. The path he was on was a dangerous one, and he couldn't just bring anyone along with him. It's not fair, she said, holding tight onto him as if he would disappear when she let go. Sorry, was his honest reply. Make me proud and get stronger, though. Prove to your father that he was wrong. He finished. The two separated, and Naruto proceeded to make his before he left. However, Minerva pulled him close and pecked him on the did not know exactly how to react to the situation, so just let himself blush it out. What was that for, he asked. It's my compensation in case I never see you again, Minerva giggled. His reaction was so cute, not what she was expecting from him. I should go, stated, and in a flash of yellow he was gone. She's one for the future, remember I told you that kid? Kurama laughed at Naruto's embarrassed form. Shut up. Was all Naruto managed to say as he thought about his first kiss, quickly clearing his mind of such thoughts, as they would only weigh him down on this path he chose to tread. That's it for the chapter, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again for the support I got last chapter, it was really encouraging. Sorry about the crappy fight scenes, really bad at those, and I promise to do better as the story goes. And also, did you enjoy the Naruto's Minerva moments at the end? Were they alright or just unnecessary? If you feel they weren't needed, I might just remove them. Now I'd like to ask you all a few questions concerning this fic and things you'd like to see. Sasuke fairy tale. Now I already have my plans for this character, but I was wondering if you would like him to be a fairy tale mage. If enough people send me PMS or reviews concerning it, I might just do it. Naruto's Levi. What do you think? Do you want Levi as a love interest along with Minerva, Murahin, Kana, Ultear and Kagura? Chapter 4. Agura Ryuaya and the Melancholy of the Swordswoman. There is good and there is evil. There are those who commit crimes and those who stop them. The two sides are opposites as different as day and night. The line between them is clearer, at least it's supposed to be. Flashback, year unknown, location pocket dimension. Huff. Finished. Finally the voice came from our young blonde hero who at the moment was panting from exhaustion. Well done, first part of your training has been completed. Hyperion looked on to Naruto with pride. The young boy had now mastered his magic, much to Hyperion's pleasure. He almost couldn't believe how brilliant the boy was when it came to his Dragon Slayer magic. Yosh, now we can move on to the next part of training. Actually Naruto, I'd like for you to test it all out, get a feel of your magic, let it all flow freely. Alright father. Naruto readied himself and assumed a fighting position. Sun Dragon's roar. He yelled, releasing a stream of a white flame-like substance which erupted from his mouth. Although no damage was caused due to them being in a pocket dimension, there was no doubting the power this technique held. I like the feel of this, it's all so natural. As it should. Child, had he not been the dragon that trained him, Hyperion would have been in awe at the size and the sheer power the roar held. Let's test the rest out. Naruto assumed a hand-to-hand combat pose. Sun Dragon's cosmic fist, his hand then became encased in a white, blue and golden light. As he jabbed the air, a large amount of force was released, despite it not hitting any target. You've mastered physical attacks, but I'm more interested in that other ability, the last magic I taught you that will eventually come to be your trump card. While I admit that its benefits are incredible, that power simply is too overwhelming even for myself. While I cannot argue with that as my Dragon Slayer, it is your responsibility to master this power. No power should be too great for you. Now Naruto was not against learning, in fact he loved every bit of it, anything that had to do with Dragon Slayers and their magic, but this technique was the exception. Take a deep breath and give it a go. Naruto sighed with defeat as he knew he would not be able to avoid this power as it was his, he couldn't run away from it forever. So he took a deep breath and uttered the words. Eye of the Dragon Elemental Sight. Elemental Sight in terms of sensory magic, it holds absolutely no equal. This magic connects the user straight to the information dimension. Everything in the universe is made up of information and possesses Etonano. This magic gives direct access of that information to the user. However, this is not all Elemental Sight is capable of. Known as the eyes of the spirits or heaven's eye, elemental sight can target anything with a physical body, allowing its user to see each and every bit of information and target them separately. In other words, no one can escape from elemental sight. By using elemental sight, users have a 360 field of vision regardless of physical obstacles. It allows its user to see the past of any magic, what magic had been used in a situation, and the nature of the magic by analyzing information. To say Naruto was overwhelmed would be an understatement. Overwhelmed would not begin to explain just how he was feeling right now. It was like having your brain suddenly hooked up to a 100,000 supercomputers, or suddenly being filled with the information of every library on the planet. How does it feel? Like my brain is about to overload. That means it's working. Naruto rolled his eyes at the comment. He didn't understand how his father joked about this situation. There was absolutely nothing funny about it. He quickly deactivated the eyes. How does it feel being able to see Etonano? It's beautiful, but no mind is supposed to see that much. The fool always think things out of his reach are impossible. He frowned at the comments of the old dragon. Was he implying that he was a fool? Because if that was the case, he did not appreciate the comment. Hyperion noticed the frown on his son's face. No need to be so serious, boy. We should be celebrating. You've finished part of your training. You've grasped your powers. You get to leave this dimension and return to the one you call your angel. Hyperion finished with a wink. Naruto cringed at the actions of his father. But Serrano, old man, Serrano, angel's just a nickname given by you. Quite charming if I do say so myself. I see you've truly grown up to be a gentleman under my tutelage. I bet she'll be excited to see you. Naruto sighed. For a dragon that had lived for centuries, Hyperion seemed to take amusement in the simplest of things, like infraction between children. Listen, old man, you really need to stop this. Your mischievous side will be the death of you. You know, I had a vision about your angel. Now Naruto was interested. Why on earth would the sun dragon be having visions about his friend Serrano? He thought that it might actually be useful. Maybe it would help her find her long-lost younger sister. I'm all ears. Pop, the blonde replied with a grin that amused his draconian parent. Listen carefully, young one, it might not be what you are expecting. Come on, father, you're not getting any. Don't be afraid to share. Alright then, listen up. You will meet two sets of sisters, your angel included, all of which will possess a light silver blue hair color. Naruto froze. Did this mean that they would find Serrano's sister? That'd be good news. He couldn't tell her yet, though wouldn't want to get her hopes up. Are you still listening? Yes, father, you will experience great joy and happiness. It would be some of the best time of your life, but then, you will experience heartache, sadness, betrayal, but in the end you will be stronger for it. That doesn't make me happy, Naruto deadpanned. Well, tough luck. You're bad, father. Are you aware of this? Yes, I am fully aware. Well, as long as we have an understanding. Wahahaha. You truly are my boy. Hyperion's demeanor turned serious, and Naruto understood what this meant. They had finished the first part of training, but there had been something that they hadn't touched on, and that was his left hand. Hyperion understood just how serious him having this left hand was. It was a dangerous situation. While within the arm, the power of Acnologia lay, giving Naruto access to his powers. There were other forces at work in the arm. It was a perfect combination of magic and genetic experimentation. Hyperion gathered that Naruto's original left hand must have been replaced with this one. There was something about the arm that made Hyperion feel uneasy. He had explained most of it to Naruto, but he had purposely left out some details. As to not unnecessarily worry the boy, he found out that not only Naruto's left hand but part of his DNA had been altered to the point that while he was still human, he was also something else, something dangerous, something darker, and that wasn't good. He would never have the heart to tell the boy. This had been why he was so insistent on teaching Naruto his magic. As first he didn't want to teach Naruto about Acnologia, but he felt it was better if he could control it instead of being ignorant to it. He never wanted the boy to run dry and let whatever was in his left arm take over. What's the problem, father? Naruto, you are aware about Acnologia, my brother, are you not? Naruto nodded. Tell me all you know. Acnologia, Black Dragon, god of Apocalypse, child of Shinju, brother of Hyperion, as well as king of the night and moon dragons and self-proclaimed king of dragons. He wields the power of destruction, which allows him to complete control over energy and lets him utilize it to completely annihilate anything, from magic to living creatures. It's the ultimate use of energy. Well done, you realize that you possess this power as well. Your left hand acts as a medium, but you can access it as easily as you can access mine. Yes, I'm aware. Remember what happened last time? Naruto broke into a cold sweat as he remembered what had happened last time. His memory was blurry, but he knew what happened once he lost control. Control is key, my son, never forget. Yes, father, control is key. I'll need it for my goals. I'll heal with my right hand. I'll destroy with my left hand. I'll save people with my right hand. I'll destroy them with my left hand. Revenge is never the answer, boy. The worshippers of Zeref and dark guilds might be scum, but is the way it has to be. It'll stop them from bringing back demons or resurrecting Zeref or hurting children. Whatever evils they do, I'll stop them. If that's what you wish. Time SKIP 3 years. Iraq 780. Location Fiori. The Guru Raiwaya, the Great Black Dragon. The Kokutan god of darkness and blackness, restorer and destroyer of worlds. Bahasvara. He was someone who wielded incredibly destructive power on the scale of nuclear weapons and may very well one day shatter the world. These were the rumors flying round Fiori at the moment, the Obsidian demon responsible for the destruction of over 100 dark guilds in the past couple years. Probably the greatest force to grace Fiori in several years. Unknown to most, his identity was none other than Naruto, the Sun Dragon Slayer, as well as the Black Dragon Slayer. Over the past few years, he had been amassing a small spy network with several contacts all over the kingdom of Fiori. XXX. The body hit the ground with a fumble as it became lifeless, blood coming from the deep stomach wound. The person who was killed was pale, his eyes rolled back. The sound of footsteps walked silently past him, followed by dark energy that took the form of flames surrounding him, incinerating his body into nothing. The entire compound was surrounded by this dark energy. It was slowly enveloped and the building slowly began to crumble. 5 people rushed into an open room corridor and, shutting the door behind them, quickly covered the door with anything that was large enough in the room. The 5 people were of mostly male gender, only one female within the group. Fear gripped their hearts as they prepared to cast their magic. It was silent, though they heard small footsteps come and the sound of steel skidding on the ground. One of the males clenched his teeth in fear as he took a step back. He's coming, the Agura Raiwaya. He stuttered out loudly. Ready yourselves, we of this guild shall not fall. Yelled the leader of the group. The head now mentally prepared themselves for what was about to come, whether they died or not. Now they didn't care, they just left it in the hands of the unknown. One kick into the door and everything flew across the room past the 5. The figure stood around 5'6" with wild blonde hair and sharp azure-colored eyes with cat-like pupils, his eyes somewhat of a slanted shape, giving off a sinister appeal to them. On top of his shoulders was a red fox-looking cat with a maniacal grin. Don't bother begging for mercy, I've already made up my mind to kill you. The voice coming from the figure said. It sounded like nothing more than a teenager, but it was mature and it brought such a cold feeling to it, with said maturity. You should have seen the look on the last guy's face. Kurama began laughing. The members felt their legs tremble, though it was the leader who shook his head and glared at the young male. Who the hell do you think you are? We are of the Dark Guild, Shadow Hornet. He yelled. He looked at the others and yelled out them attack now. Humans and their false bravado. Kurama chimed, further aggravating Shadow Hornet. Soon all of their magic seals appeared and broke as they all yelled out their attacks in unison. Dark Shadow. Dark Rondo. Flaming Blizzard. Shadow Pulse. Spinning Tornado. An explosion occurred as the attacks collided, hitting the male directly. It blew the whole corridor down from the entrance that the figure came from to the walls. The magic that they used though remained, they believed they had won, that they had defeated the single enemy. However, that was all but true. Suddenly the halberd that had been used from one of the dark mages had flown at its owner, impaling him chest, sending the weapon and his body into the wall where he hung lifelessly. Is that it? A voice came from within the fiery magic as the magic was slowly being absorbed by a black aura. The man had feasted on the magic like it was a measly snack. He was now releasing a devilishly black and threatening aura. Gravity seemed to increase in the room. What the hell do you want? One of the mages half questioned, half screamed, as he had no understanding as to why both the boy and his exceed had attacked their guild. Me? Nothing in particular. My friend, however, has other ideas. The fox finished. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and evil for evil, the blonde figure began. Revenge, one of the mages began. If we've offended you in any way, we apologize. There's still time to make it right, he pleaded with the Agura Raiwaya, as he had no interest in dying. Wahaha, you really think you can bargain with him? Kurama began to laugh. Burn, the blonde figure whispered, and as quickly as the words left his lips, a black energy covered the room and darkness flooded. That could be heard were the screams of terror and agony, and like that the battle was over. The Dark Guild known as Shadow Hornet was no more. XXX. Libraries, I hate libraries. Shut up, Kurama. Currently the blonde and his exceed were rummaging through different books trying to find whatever it is the blonde was looking for. I don't get all this, why are we in such a secluded part of the library reading about Zeref and demons and dark guilds? The fix questioned his blonde partner. Know thy enemy, Kurama, he replied quickly without missing a beat. You just blow them up anyway, the fox yelled. Could you be any louder? Why not just announce to the Magic Council we're the Agura Raiwaya? Naruto replied. Two's shouting now. Excuse me. Both Naruto and Kurama turned to see who the voice belonged to. They were greeted by a pale-skinned girl who seemed to be the same age as Naruto. She had purple hair and brown eyes. Now it was hard to ever find Naruto stunned. He was a slayer of dragons, god of destruction, destroyer of dark guilds, but right now he had found himself captivated by the young woman in front of him. The young lady began to blush heavily under the attention she was getting from the handsome blonde. Hello Earth, to dumb blonde. Kurama waved his paw in front of the stunned blonde. The girl giggled at the Exceed's actions. Naruto quickly regained his composure, stretching out his hand to shake the girl. "Yuma, nice to meet you, I'm Naruto," he smiled at her. She blushed at his genuine smile and returned it with her own, taking his hand and shaking it. "Ultear Milkovich, sorry about my behavior earlier. Yeah, you're a real Casanova, bwahaha." Kurama grabbed his stomach as he doubled over in laughter. She blushed, remembering what had occurred only a few moments ago. "I know this may seem sudden. You proposing already?" The mischievous fox interjected. Both Naruto and Ultear blushed furiously. "No, that's not it," she pleaded. "I was only curious as to why you're reading about Zeref." Naruto was caught by surprise. Ultear had found him with his guard down. How was he going to explain himself reading up on the most evil mage in history? Actually, what was he so worried about? He lied all the time. He did it so much that it had become like a second nature to him. "I'm just curious. You know what they say about curiosity, it kills the cat," she teased as she looked at Kurama. "I'm no cat, I am Kurama, most powerful of the 9 great Bijuu, destroyer of worlds." And he never got a chance to finish as he fell of Naruto's shoulder. Ultear and Naruto both laughed. "Well, you two both got chummy fast. I'm just happy I found someone else who liked to read about Zeref," Ultear stated. "You like Zeref?" Naruto inquired, curious as to why anyone would like the black mage. "It's not like I like him, I just believe Zeref is the link to finding out about the origins of magic. Wouldn't it be great to find out about the first mages?" Naruto thought about it. She was definitely a smart girl to think this deep into the situation. Maybe she wanted to become a magical technician or professor, with thinking like that she would fit right into the field. "Is that the only reason you read about Zeref?" he asked. "No," was her swift reply. "I plan to join the Magic Council, and I think it'd do me good if I learned all I could." "That's ambitious, little lady," Kurama added. "Me and my partner have actually got to go now as we have an appointment. It was nice meeting you." Kurama finished, hopping back on Naruto's shoulder. "It was nice meeting you, Ultear," Naruto said as he began to walk away. "Hope I see you around, Naruto-kun," she said in a rather flirtatious tone. XXX. Naruto was sitting on the bench with a communication lacrima in his hand. The man on the lacrima seemed like an odd fellow. He possessed gravity-defying silver, an eye patch and a facial mask. Currently he was engaged in a conversation with our blonde hero, his foxy companion, and a rather shady figure leaning against the bench in which Naruto was sitting. The shady figure was an informant, and one of the informants Naruto paid to gather information for him all across Fiori. "So sensei, you're positive?" Naruto asked the silver-haired man in the lacrima. 100%, he replied. "It'll happen today, most definitely." "Indeed," the informant added, "although it's quite dangerous and lacks a decent amount of info. There's no doubt that job will be available today, although I'd advise against it due to the lack of information." "Too late for that. Once he's made up his mind, he goes for it," Kurama stated. "I agree with Kurama-chan, there's no way Naruto will change his mind," the man within the lacrima stated. "What did you just call me? You one-eyed freak?" Kurama's eye twitched. "Thanks for the information, sensei." Kurama was cut off by Naruto. "I'll be sure to put it to good use," he finished. "Stay safe, Naru-chan. Don't call me that, you perverted one-eyed freak," Naruto chastised his sensei. Easy Naruto, no love for sensei. "Say hi to Obito-sensei for me," Naruto finished. "Will do," and with that the communication was broken. "It's about time we go," Kurama stated as they began to depart. "Be careful, don't want to lose my best client," the informant stated. Aye, Naruto stated as he waved goodbye. XXX. Fiori, Magnolia Town, Fairy Tail Guild Hall. As usual, the Fairy Tail Guild Hall was in disarray. Members were fighting helter-skelter. The guild was a complete mess. However, in the corner 2 men were having a serious conversation. One was a short old man with grey hair, while the other was an older-looking man who was quite large. He possessed white hair. They were Makarov Dreyer, 3rd Master of the Fairy Tail Guild, and Jiraiya, member of the legendary 3 Mages. Right now the two of them seemed to be locked in a serious conversation. "Are you sure?" the old master inquired. "Spoke to Kakashi myself," he said, taking a sip of his beer. "Excellent, that's wonderful news," Makarov stated as tears formed in his eyes. "You're getting real soft, old man." They turned around to see 2 girls fighting. One possessed silver hair, while the other had scarlet hair. They seemed to be at a stalemate, but both were going at each other with everything they had. "She's fitting in nicely," Jiraiya smiled. "Indeed. Thank goodness you found her when you did," was Makarov's reply. "It's the least I can do." Jiraiya finished, taking another sip of his beer. XXX. "So how on earth did this happen?" Kurama asked. "I'm not sure," Naruto replied. "Forgive me," was the reply that came from a female who happened to be side by side with Naruto and Kurama. She was a young girl dressed in traditional Japanese princess style. She possessed purple hair and hazel eyes. She was Kagura Mikazuchi. As Naruto and Kurama had gone back to the circuit to retrieve and sign off the confidential mission for the Magic Council, she had been present. She too wished to go on the mission with our heroic duo. You see, Kagura was a girl that Naruto had met on his many travels over the past 3 years. Naruto liked her because she was like him in many ways. They both shared a similar ambition and dream. Both Kagura and Naruto had traveled together for a while before deciding to part ways. Now linking up with Kagura again wasn't what made Naruto upset right now. In fact, he was ecstatic about it. He enjoyed traveling with her. She made him happy in ways he couldn't understand or explain. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the mission and what lay in front of them. Now the mission had been a very vague one, typical from the Magic Council: go to a location and destroy or retrieve an item. Simple enough, right? Wrong. It would be simple if the mission fit the description, but what happens when you didn't know that a powerful dark guild were after the same thing? Our heroes can answer that for you. I never expected things to get this complicated, Naruto admitted. Nothing like a good challenge, wouldn't you agree? Kurama questioned as he looked excited. Always the optimist, Kurama, Kagura added. I try, he stated. By the way, Missy, you need to talk to your man over there. Earlier today he was drooling over another girl, Kurama teased. Now's not the time, Kurama, Naruto replied. Were you? She asked with a saddened look on her face. I'd say you have more pressing matters to deal with than your petty squabbles. A voice came from the other side of the room. On the other side of the room, two mages were on the floor. They looked to be dead or severely injured with no chance of recovery. While the last of them seemed heavily injured and barely able to stand, he was draped in bandages and a large cloak all around. He went by the name of Dosu, and he was a sound magic user. The voice came for this man. Serpent's Head. That was the name of the guild that these people came from, a powerful dark guild with powerful mages. They are a part of the Balam Alliance, and one of their more powerful guilds. Defeating the mages of Serpent's Head had been relatively easy for Naruto, Kagura and Kurama, but now they'd hit a brick wall. The item that the Magic Council wanted destroyed was a gourd said to belong to the White Mage of old, with the power to seal anything and anyone inside. Now this was where the problem lay. Serpent's Head had been asked by their guild master to retrieve this item because a few years ago two very powerful individuals were sealed inside, and these individuals were what Serpent's Head desired. Now that they've been released, your deaths are inevitable. My role here is complete. I'll leave the rest to my guild. With that, Dosu drew his last breath. Dead already? A new voice entered the fray. It would seem so, brother, another voice replied. That's a shame. Indeed. We should go to his guild to repay them. After all, they did release us. Right after we deal with the trash here. Ginkaku and Ginkaku, the gold and silver brothers. They were both large and muscular individuals who possessed gold and silver hair, along with whisker birthmarks similar to Naruto's. Legendary criminals of Fiori. They were powerful mages known to hunt down anything that piqued their interest and devouring them to gain a portion of their magic power. Eventually the brothers gained large amounts of power and began to terrorize Fiori. Before they were sealed in the gourd of the legendary White Mage by the Magic Council. Now they had returned. Serpent's Head, what a bunch of weirdos, Kurama complained. After we kill these guys, I'm going after the rest of that guild, Naruto added. Kagura smirked. You kill you? Kinkaku never got the chance to finish as he was blasted into oblivion by a dark ball of energy courtesy of Naruto. Damn, there goes half of my magic power, Naruto swore. The power of destruction was very useful. You killed Kinkao? Ginkaku roared, outraged at what had just happened to his brother. His magical energy spiked. Get down. Naruto hollered, dragging Kagura and Kurama down to the street. A heartbeat before the room was consumed in an explosion. Something about this guy doesn't feel right. Naruto hissed. Can't you feel that? There's way too much energy packed up inside, more than anyone should have, almost as much as masters. We don't have enough strength left to take him head on either, not after that unison raid. Even if we did, this guy would make us work for it. So trust when I say we cannot get pissed off here. Got it. Kagura and Kurama nodded in agreement. Shit's about to get real, so you guys stay back. You'll take on this guy, get away from here. Naruto yelled, but Kagura had no time to reply as she was picked up and flown away by Kurama. Believe me, little lady, it's better this way, the Exceed convinced her. Great, he smirked. Now that they're gone, I really have no need to hold back any longer. So you were holding back, Ginkaku accused. That's because I didn't want to kill I wanted information. Naruto hissed. But Yaoyu, I'm going to kill. Slowly. Try it if you dare. Oh, I dare. Naruto grunted, the brilliance of the sun flaring about his body once more. Burgeoning his battered frame. Golden hair streamed behind him, his eyes flashing an eerie jade violet. He was then enveloped by a black shroud as he proceeded to attack. One moment Naruto stood across from him. The next violent violet-green orb swelled before his vision, Alongus the Dragon Slayer's clenched fist. Black Sun Dragon's fist. He roared, driving his clenched knuckles deep into the madman's stomach. Black Sun Dragon's edge. A devastating knee to the groin seconded his outraged cry. Black Sun Dragon's claw. An upturned elbow thrust came crashing across Ginkaku's chin. Black Sun Dragon's cosmic fist. Stars, whole planets. Exploded. Before Ginkaku's eyes, battered, bruised and reeling like a drunkard, he could only sway haphazardly on his feet as the Dragon Slayer drew his arm back for one last attack. Seizing the rogue by the cloth of his robe, Naruto flung him toward the ceiling. Dragon Slayer secret art. Naruto announced, violet eyes blazing violently, aura flaring fiercely. Obsidian supernova. But that single punch, shaped in the form of screaming dragon, the area exploded. The upper half of the building simply ceased to be, vanishing in the ensuing explosion as the Agura Ryui's greatest technique struck the rogue, shearing through clothes and flesh alike. When the smoke cleared, only one was left standing. Inkaku clutched at the ruined remnants of his right arm, the limb horribly mangled just below the elbow. Several burns lined the length of his face and chest, having seared through his beard and robe. His eyes burned heatedly upon the black dragon god. "Impudent Brit," he hissed. "You cannot defeat me." Naruto scoffed. Inkaku spat a bloody gob onto the floor. "It's over for you." Naruto took a deep breath. The dragon slayer inclined his head. "You're a tough one, Gigi." He grinned. "That should have killed you." His shoulders slumped. He was getting tired. He'd used a lot of powerful moves. "Thankfully I still have one more trick up my sleeve. Now, I longer need this form, so if you'll excuse me, I'd like to wrap things up with this last attack." He clenched the wrist of his right arm, muscles bulging at the sudden effort. "Watch closely now. You'll only get to see this once." "What? It's over." Naruto cocked his fist backward, ready to deliver the final blow. This. There were no flames to be found in his fist anymore. No grand explosion of light and shadow as the muscle of his right arm contracted, building up a titanic amount of power. What manner of sorcery was this? A simple punch. Inkaku raised his arm, nonplussed. Surely he would be able to stop such a strike. Surely, he did not mean to defeat him with such a simple blow. Naruto erupted forward, arm cocked, knuckles clenched, a wide triumphant grin, tugging at his every feature. Sun Dragon's firing hammer, as if such a punch could harm him. He would block it, of course, and then he would break this boy, break his family, break everything he held dear. He would make him suffer in recompense for this temerity, for this out-of-hand defiance. He would suffer and bawl and beg and wish for death, and he would not be granted it until Jima saw fit. Oh yes, he would block this punch, and then he did not block it. Could not, as it powered through his guard and collided with his chin. It felt as though two individuals had struck him as one, as though another were there, her fist striking him, alongside that of the mighty sun god. What sorcery was this? Was he seeing things? How could such a thing be? How could Kolthi have such power? Fiori, unknown location, mountain top, Sasuke-Uchiha, under Dragon Slayer. He stood atop this mountain with scores of dead dark mages across him. On his shoulder was his purple exceed Manda, the reptilian-looking feline, a purple cat with snake-like features. "Filled them all, Sasuke." "Shut up, Manda." "It was a necessary evil," he replied coolly. "If you say so, Sasuke. I wonder what he's doing now." "Who knows?" Manda replied, and with that they were on their merry way. XXX. Naruto was now with Kagura and Kurama after his long and painstaking battle with Jinikaku, simply minding his business. Of course, he sneezed lightly and sniffed his nose. Odd for me getting a cold." Truth was that it was odd. From being a child to a young, healthy teenager, with some aggression and violence issues, he had never once in his life had even an allergic reaction. He was as healthy as a horse, but that would be an understatement. "Someone must be thinking about you," Kagura giggled. "Maybe it's Ultear," Kurama teased. Naruto just sighed at the antics of his companions. "It's done. Sorry about such a rushed ending. I really wanted to give you guys a really good chapter, but I had to rush. I was running out of time. Sorry if I underperformed this chapter 1. Promise to do better next chapter." Now for pairings. I was a bit surprised myself at some of the response I got, but by popular demand Lisana Yukino and Angel have joined as love interests due to popular demand. They join Murahan, Ultear, Minerva, Kagura, Hana in the battle for our heroes' affections. I'm still on the bench for Levi and I'm considering Juvia. Did you guys enjoy Naruto in this chapter 1? No, he might seem a bit bipolar, but it's just that he's more serious when facing dark guilds due to his intense hatred of them. He tries to be neutral with everything else. Sorry once again for a rush chapter 1, just really wanted to give it to you guys, please forgive me. A lot of things were introduced in a messy way this chapter. I'll clean it up later. Tell me anything you noticed, any spoilers for the future if you picked up anything, and I'll give you a cookie. Feel free to PM. Before I go, I have some questions. Would you like to see Wendy with Naruto pre-canon? Do you want Naruto to take her to Fairy Tail when he eventually goes? Would you like to see Sasuke paired with someone? Also, the opening of this chapter will feature dragon history, like in the third chapter. Dragon history will always be present in chapters that it will be necessary, so instead of going back, you can always read it on the current chapter you are on, so I advise you reread it, because there will be new parts added. Think of it like an ancient tablet that is being discovered piece by piece. Now I'd just like to warn you in advance, you see Naruto is op in this fic, and I mean really op like Shiba Tetsui op. As you continue to read the fic you will understand why, and see that it is necessary. I hope you enjoy and stay along for the ride. There is a history to dragonkind, starting with the first 3 dragons, those who are said to have governed over all dragons from ancient times until now. Bo, also known as Asgarath, the dragon of balance, the world dragon of life, what some like to call the one true dragon. He is known for being neutral in all things that he does like a true dragon, as they are expected to be neutral in all cases. Then there is Shinju, also known as Chronepsis, the dragon of fate, the void dragon of Null. Ever the distant dragon, he does not bother himself with the affairs of dragons, much less that of humans. Then we have the Crimson Dragon, known only as the Crimson Dragon, a powerful dragon quite different from his brothers. He wasn't neutral, he always looked for when to help, and he was always willing to and wanted to help. Those three were known as the Upper Deity Dragon. From the scales of Eo, three other dragons were born. The first being Vorel, a real neutral dragon just like his father. Vorel was known as the One Dragon and the Celestial Dragon, a late bloomer in terms of knowledge, but when he did come of age, he was a force to be reckoned with. Now the other two dragons were a special case. The first was Bahamut, the current king of the dragons. He is known as the Platinum Dragon and the Lord of the North Winds. He had a sister who was born alongside him. Tiamat, the Dragon of Destruction, also known as the Dark Dragon Queen and the Chromatic Queen, she was always at odds with her brothers. While Vorel didn't care, Bahamut saw her as some sort of rival. The two of them were always at odds with each other, never siding with each other, except maybe on few occasions, when Bahamut became Dragon King. Tiamat grew furious and took a large sect of dragons. With her, that is when she claimed the title of Dark Dragon Queen, and all who followed her were known as Dark Dragons. Ultimately, Bahamut and Tiamat could not be like their father or elder brother. They could not be neutral. Tiamat chose the path of evil to further her goals, and to stop his sister and combatter Bahamut choose the path of good, thus neither of could be a neutral dragon. The Crimson Dragon bore 6 dragons that aided him in his mission: protect people and the world. The Ancient Fairy Dragon, the Black Rose Dragon, the Black Winged Dragon, the Life Stream Dragon, the Ever-Evolving Stardust Dragon and Red Dragon Archfiend. From Vorel 3 dragons were born in a similar manner to Vorel. These 3 dragons with incredible power choose not to bother themselves in trivial issues, and they were neutral dragons. The dragons were the Alga, the Dragon of Time, Giratina, the Antimatter Dragon, Alkia, the Dragon of Space. They were known as the Creation Trio. Bahamut also bore 3 dragons while wielding great power. They did not share in their father's quest for good. On the other hand, these dragons cared for balance. Rishiram, the Blazing White Yang Dragon, Zekrom, the Electrifying Black Yin Dragon, Hyman, the Freezing Grey Wuji Dragon. They were known as the Tao Trio. Unlike her brothers, Tiamat only bore 1 dragon of noteworthy power, and that was Yamato no Arachi, the 8-headed dragon of darkness, a being of pure darkness with not a single shred of light. This had been what Tiamat had intended to do: harness the power of darkness in a dragon. He was second in command of the Dark Dragons. More dragons were born from Eo, known as the Dragon Gods. Not much unlike the Upper Dragon deities, they governed dragonkind, while the Upper Dragon deity took a more backseat role in governing dragons, so much so that younger dragons believed them to be a myth. The Dragon Gods: Eryx, the Dragon Fire God, ruler of the flames; Ryukami, the Storm Thunder and Lightning, Dragon God, Lord of the Storms; Raijin, the Water Dragon God, Emperor of the Seas; Dilong, the Earth Dragon God, Lord of the Ground; Tornadus, the Dragon Wind God, King of the Skies. These were dragons born from the Great Eo, along with Bahamut, Tiamat and Vorel. However, these were not the only dragon gods. Shinju, as much as he did not like to interfere with matters, and as much as he liked to just watch, sometimes he decided to interfere. Through his power he created dragon gods. They were different, born purely of his power, and with a special gene. The Cosmic Emperor Dragons. The first being Hyperion, the Solar Sun Dragon of Yang and Light, a dragon of great power and, like the other dragon gods, one that was not so restricted by laws that govern other normal dragons, with a power that was unrivaled by most. He was a force to reckon with, one that went beyond being a force of nature. The second being Acnologia, the Black Dragon, the Dragon of Apocalypse. Like his brother Hyperion, he also wielded unrivaled power and was a force of pure power and destruction, and coupled with his hatred and pity for everything, he saw himself as better than all dragons. He felt superior in every way. His power knew no bounds. In terms of raw power, they rivaled Bahamut, Tiamat and Vorel. The power from their birth was so strong that 4 new dragons were born due to the leftover energy from Hyperion and Acnologia's birth. The Pep and Eos, the Night Dragons. Thoth and Selene, the Lunar Moon Dragons. Although born directly from his power, these dragons were not considered children of Shinju. Instead, they were seen as servants of Hyperion and Acnologia. After the dragon gods, there are the elemental dragon lords. While not as strong as the deities, they have been made certain lords of their region for their incredible abilities with their element. Igneel, the Fire Dragon; Metallicana, the Steel Dragon; Brandini, the Sky Dragon; Bazloja, the White Dragon; Skiadrum, the Shadow Dragon; Leviathan, Scatha, Hydra, Rayquaza; 4 Dragon Kings of the Sea: Cerator, the Crystal Dragon; Ioranmeru and Glacia, the Ice Dragons; Vulcanus, the Lava Dragon; Bravator, the Gravity Dragon; Broden, the Earth Dragon; Bayu, the Wind Dragon; Helios, child of Hyperion, the Light Dragon, and thus dragonkind was born. The years passed by and dragons began to come in contact with the rest of the world and other species that existed throughout the universe. The most notable being the humans. Humans that are known to have the most evolutionary genes in the universe. Their genes possessed a unique feature that allowed it to mix and be assimilated with other races. Dragon Slayers. The next step in dragon and human evolution, dragons bestowing their powers upon humans. Over the years dragon slayers had began to amass large powers killing dragons, angels, demons. Certain dragon slayers began to amass power compared to that of dragon kings in their small bodies. It was the birth of humanoid draconians. Like real dragons, the slayers began to procreate, creating clans and large families. Several hybrid races began to take fruit and unfurl all over the earth. Dragon slayers have the ability to recognize one of their own. Dragons are bound together through an unnatural bond, the same goes for the dragon slayers. Though, it is possible that though a dragon slayer may feel like he or she knows you, but will not realize they have that feeling, because you are a dragon slayer like them. However, the ability to sense dragon slayers becomes almost instinctual once dragon slayers are able to detect one another after the first time. Tetsu, a rage of dragons. This was the name bestowed to these large clans of dragon slayers and their kin. Tatsu, however, were not composed simply of dragon slayers. As long as the leader of the Tatsu was strong enough, he could control any other species he desired. Devil, yokai, fallen angels and even humans, the Tatsu become dominant on the earth. Like dragons, they had their own rankings within the Tatsu. The leader of the Tatsu could be any of these, as long as he was more powerful than the rest. However, the stronger the Tatsu, the stronger the leader, and vice versa. Low-level dragons. A dragon class that belongs to weaker dragons. They are considered to be the weakest amongst the dragon slayers. Mid-level dragons. A dragon class that belongs to normal dragons. Average at best, tend to work better with large numbers. High-level dragons. A dragon class that belongs to normal dragons. The most powerful of the normal dragon slayers, single-handedly they possess the ability to engage in combat with a regular dragon and emerge victorious. Dragon Kings Rikm are a group of unique dragons with high destructive powers, rivaling those of ultimate class devils or even the great Satan's highest ranking demons devils. Like their draconian parents, slayers who reach this level are considered kings amongst all others and will be worshipped as a dragon can sense when another is stronger and knows to submit. Heavenly dragons, Tenrik, are dragons with powers that rival that of a god and Satan and are considered to be of the highest class of dragons. Those who fall into this class become dragon emperors of great power. They are the human equivalent of children of dragon gods such as the Tao Trio, the Creation Trio. Usually dragon slayers that achieve this level were children of dragon gods such as Eryx, Boral, Hyperion, Bahamut, Ek. The dragon god Rikshan is a class that till this day only 7 dragon slayer has reached. It is a power that transcends human and dragon. The true dragon Shinrik is a class that solely belongs to the great dragon god emperor, who is known as the Dragon of Dragons. It is the title given to only the most powerful class of dragon slayers, as the most who reach this state fully evolve and reach the level of a dragon. It is possible for a Tatsu to be started within another Tatsu, but as long as the leader of the original Tatsu was stronger, he would remain head even of the new Tatsu, as the leader of that would still be considered his subordinate. Another class of dragon is the evil dark dragons superscript Ajeric, are known to be on par or more powerful than the dragon kings, while the most powerful evil dragon is said to be as strong as a heavenly dragon. The evil dragons are stated to be the most vicious and brutal of all dragons, all being dangerous battle maniacs that want to destroy everything including themselves. They are considered as broken dragons. Dark dragon slayers were coming into existence more and more, growing to incredible numbers. It was much easier to manipulate the darkness in the hearts of people. Samuel, Dragon Slayer of Tiamat, was the architect of this scheme, along with Yamato no Orochi, the Darkness Dragon, the occasional help of Acnologia and Seraph, as well as a sorceress named Kagaya Tsutsuki. War was brewing. However, one dragon slayer and his Tatsu were not willing to back down. Known simply as the Great Red, he was one of the few dragon slayers able to achieve the level of the true dragon Shinrik. He fought Samuel along with his Tatsu and decimated his forces. Samuel disappeared, as did the darkness. But it was far from over. In fact, the fight for dominion had only begun. Most of the Tatsu went into hiding in preparation for the last days. The day of apocalypse. Flashback. Samuel, huh? The young blonde asked his dragon father. Indeed, if you want to get stronger, do so for this purpose. Hyperion replied. So the only way to change the world is to destroy the evil roots. So what are your plans now? To become a Shinrik and destroy Samuel as well as Tiamat and all associated with them. To do that you'll need a strong Tatsu. Make no mistake, old man, I'll gather the strongest companions and we'll form the most powerful Tatsu in history. The dragon of Yang could only smile at his son's ambition. He'll look forward to it. Better believe it, he grinned at his father. However, you will need lots of mates, though it's compulsory. Hyperion grinned at his child mischievously, knowing Naruto for the amount of time he did. He knew that no matter how bold, cold, confident he was when it came to women and topics as such as defame or would crumble. Why on earth is that important? A strong leader needs strong women by his side. After all, the stronger members of your Tatsu are the stronger you are. Naruto was cut off before he could even come up with a decent enough reply. I also want lots of grandchildren. Isn't it usually the grandmother that asks for that, you lizard? Well, that's too bad, a weak-willed brat like you could never bring home a decent May, let alone more than one. Boy, you lizard, just who do you think you're talking to? A brat you definitely can't emulate, Big Red. He had 9 mates aside from your angel, you can't even talk to girls. Shut up, are you mad? Yang Dragon's holy flame. Naruto yelled as he attacked his dragon father full with the intent to kill. Looks like I struck a nerve if my own son's trying to kill me. Stay still, you overgrown lizard. You've definitely improved, Naruto, using my power like that. You're truly a special child, Hyperion thought to himself. Berex 80. Location unknown desert. Kurama panted as he watched Naruto. The blonde mage was using wide ethereal wings made out of his dragon slayer, magic energy to allow him to fly across the desert sands, and the kitsune cat was now having to flap his wings furiously as the wings caused blonde through the air rather quickly. Oh, Naruto. The blonde turned back with a puzzled look. What, Kurama? Slow down for a while, we've been flying for hours, Kurama said as he suddenly caught up with Naruto before grabbing onto the boy's head and made his resting place. On second thought, you can continue. I'll just ride you along the way. Naruto's eyes twitched at the cat as he saw it give him a vulpine grin. It had been 3 weeks since Naruto's fight with Serpent's Head, and in all honesty, he still hadn't fully recovered from and Kagura had been able to defeat the original 3 members of the guild, but when they released Kinkaku and Ginkaku, things took a turn for the worst. To the average eye it looked like Naruto had won the fight quite easily, but this was not the case. What he did had taken a great toll on his body. The magics of Acnologia and Hyperion were similar, and yet as different as day and night. Black Dragon's Slayer magic was thicker and dealt more with matter, while Hyperion's magic dealt more with energy. Acnologia's magic could be used in either the form of matter or energy. During the fight, Naruto had began to combine the 2 magics, reinforcing the energy of Sun and Yang Dragon slaying magic with that of Acnologia's. If Naruto was a stronger Dragon Slayer, he would have been able to turn both elements into something else, but he wasn't ready for such a feat. Fire, water, air, earth, ice, lightning. Space-time, antimatter. Twilight, either, nether. It didn't matter to a dragon, elements were only the energies that said dragons chose to be associated with. The true nature of a dragon lay in its evolutionary powers. The ability to survive in an inferno moments after surviving a blizzard. This was the level one needed to be at, and the only way to do such was to understand the energies behind each of the forces. Deep in thought, I see Kurama's voice caught Naruto off guard. How'd you know? You haven't said anything for 5 minutes, kid. That's a new record for you, the fox laughed. You lazy furball, Naruto grumbled. So what's the problem? I was just thinking about my dragon slaying powers and how they're lacking. What level would you say you're on right now? High-level dragon, for someone who wants to defeat Samuel and Tiamat, it's nowhere near enough, the blonde admitted. I noticed you mixing Acnologia and Hyperion's magic isn't that dangerous. Not really, their magics were created so that they could be used together. I'm trying to get a better understanding of it all. I see our Tatsu is looking rather nice, though we've got Minerva, Kagura, Kakashi, Obito and the other 4, as well as that provocative Nekomata. Our? Naruto deadpanned. You heard me, constantly, Kurama mock cried. Naruto rolled his eyes. He was right though, the Tatsu was getting rather strong. Naruto had met other dragon slayers, about 9 actually. He was stronger than 4 of them, and they would have been part of his Tatsu if they didn't already belong to Tatsu. Having masters who were stronger than Naruto was, he really needed to work on his strength, and that's why he had begun to combine his dragon slayer magic. When a dragon goes beyond the elements, he reaches true power. This is what Naruto was trying to achieve through the power of Acnologia and Hyperion. He could hold dominion over all elements. Once he achieved that, he would be well on his was to becoming a Shinrige. The power of balance. Boy, you're really pissing me off, Kurama said in an annoyed tone, irritated at how the dragon slayer kept drifting to his mind. Why not find a scratching post? Shut up, brat. Just cause you're a dragon slayer doesn't mean I'll be all respectful towards you, and besides, you, the cat was interrupted when a sharp sound pierced the air. Screaming? Kurama questioned. Judging from the tone, I'd say a little girl, around 6 to 8 years old, Naruto said as his ears twitched. He got up and looked at Kurama, who had miraculously lost the weight from his water guzzling. We should help her, the blonde shrugged before flying over to Naruto. If we get there in time, then I suppose so. If not, we can just kill the animals and eat them. Would you like to eat the girl if she doesn't make it? Kurama said as Naruto's eyes twitched. I am the son of a dragon, I'm not a cannibal, Naruto said with a monotone. Boop-dee-doo, you're not a cannibal. Good for you. The cat spoke sarcastically, and now you're boring me now. Let's go kill those guys so I can be rid of my boredom, the red-eyed cat said. Naruto sighed before turning in the direction of where the scream came from before grabbing Kurama. We kill them and we go, alright. Naruto said. A nod from the cat was his response. A white magic seal then formed around Naruto's feet. The two vanished in a flash of white. Unknown forest. The girl panted in exhaustion as she continued to run. The howls of the animal chasing after her were loud, indicating that they weren't that far behind. Her legs were screaming for her stop and rest, so they removed the lactic acid building up her muscles, but she refused and continued to run. She pushed aside branches and brush, some of them slashing her face, and caused small lines of blood to form on her young face. She continued to run, only to skid to a halt when one of the animals appeared in front of her as it came out of the brush. The animal was a large silver wolf with shining yellow eyes, sharp teeth covered with saliva to indicate its want for food were shown in its jaws. The wolf howled before jumping at the girl. The girl took a right, avoiding the wolf as it smacked straight into a tree. The girl continued to run. She ducked underneath a branch before crawling underneath a large tree. She grabbed onto a vine and swung over a rather large mud puddle, but a pair wolves were still on her tail. Their powerful leg muscles allowing them to easily keep up with the girl. It was then that the girl realized they were just toying with her. Playing with their food. The girl was about to make a sharp left to try and escape them, but then another wolf appeared out of the foliage and knocked her to the ground. She rolled along the grass-covered earth before she twisted to the right to avoid the pounce from a third wolf. In desperation, she lashed out with a kick. The small black shoes covering her feet smacked into the wolf's muzzle, causing it to yelp in pain. The girl saw her opportunity and got back up and was about to make a break for it when a fourth wolf jumped out from behind a tree. The canines growled as they cornered the girl. She was backed up against a tree. The silver-furred canines were growling, saliva dripping from their mouths in anticipation to finally feast. Then the fifth wolf, technically the first, the one that the girl had avoided and resulted in its meeting with a tree, appeared from the brush. It was a bit larger than the others. Probably the leader of the pack. The girl guessed. The girl shivered a bit as the wolves closed in on her. Her eyes filled to the brim with fear and she did the only thing she could do in her tired state. She screamed. The scream was loud enough to cause the wolves to clutch their ears in pain. They shook their heads to remove the ringing sound that currently filled their ears before returning to their meal. The girl gulped before closing her eyes and curling into a ball as a feeble way to defend herself. However, she was not met with blinding pain and the sound of flesh torn off of bone, well, not her flesh. The girl suddenly heard a multitude of yelps and barks before the sound of flesh being sliced was heard. Naruto and Kurama were moving through the trees, their noses sniffing out the scent of whatever it was that was screaming. I got the scent, small traces of sweat and blood in the air, Kurama sniffed again. And wolves, Naruto added. The two then took off and suddenly found themselves in a tree standing above the scene of the soon-to-be murder, if you could call it that. Small little girl cornered by wolves. Kurama shook his head, such a boring bedtime story, a mischievous smile plastered itself on the cat's face. Naruto sighed at the kitsune-like cat before vanishing in flash of white lightning. Naruto landed in front of the both girl and wolves and raised his hands. Naruto quickly vanished in a blur of speed and appeared in front of one wolf and stabbed his hand through its skull with LIGHTNING storm-powered punch. He quickly turned and caught wolf by the throat before choke slamming it. He threw the wolf at another which tried to attack him, sending both of them to the ground. The blonde dropped down on the ground and avoided the pounce from another silver-furred canine before getting back onto his feet and raised his forearms so that his elbow slightly protruded outwards. He slammed his elbow back and it met the stomach of a wolf with enough force to cause it to cough up blood. The wolf fell to the ground before being impaled through the head with a storm blade. Naruto then vanished in a blur of speed and kicked all three remaining wolves into the air. Storm-style Zeus. Naruto then went into a handstand and a magic seal appeared above his feet. He kicked upwards and miniature spikes of black and white lightning flew out of the magic seal and impaled the wolves in the stomach. Maybe I overdid, Ide grumbled. He then turned when he heard a whimper. Now that he was at a closer distance he saw that the girl was rather small, proving his opinion that she was around 7 to 8 years old. She had short shoulder-length, dark blue hair. Her eyes contained brown irises. Her skin was a regular skin tone color and she wore a white dress of some sort. A pair of black shoes were worn on her feet. Naruto noticed she had a small, white hair clip in the shape of a bird's wing. All in all she looked like an innocent little girl who shouldn't be out here, thus raising the question, what's she doing here? The girl gaped in shock at seeing the dead wolves and the numerous amount of blood. She then looked up to see Naruto, his curious gaze fixed upon her. She trembled in fear, backing up against a tree in an effort to escape. The girl hoped that maybe she could become intangible and go through the tree and escape, but sadly, she didn't possess such an ability. The girl gulped as Naruto continued to watch her. The blonde sighed as if he was bored of something before walking towards the girl with a wind blade still in his hand. What are you doing here, little girl? Naruto asked, his tone seemed caring yet void of emotion as he watched her continue to shake in fear. The little girl was too scared and confused to answer as she just kept staring at Naruto. The blonde's eyes narrowed at the silence and as he was about to just turn around and leave the girl alone, he took in one deep inhalation of air before looking at the blue-haired girl with a puzzled expression. Naruto spoke, causing the girl to jump. Me? She stuttered as she finally managed to work up the nerve to talk. Naruto stepped closer to the girl, ignoring her discomfort. He then sniffed her, much to her surprise. Yes, you smell of the air, clean air, feathers and reptile. Naruto watched the girl carefully. What's your name, kid? Wendy Marvel. Well, that's for this chapter, hope you enjoyed it. I'll be going into a lot of dragon history. I've been studying different things to make this all flow. I hope it's flowing well. A couple of things I'd like to address. What if Naruto is the Sun Dragon Slayer in Fairy Tail? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys next video.